The weirdest show on television is officially back on our screens. Iron Fist. That's right, folks, it's been brought back in all its crazy glory. Now, I know what you're thinking. Iron Fist wasn't really that weird, was it? Wrong! At first glance, maybe it wasn't that weird, but think about it this way. Danny Rand...
I'm Danny Rand.
...is supposed to be the best martial artist in the world. To the point where he can fight and kill a dragon, supposedly, even though we didn't actually see that on screen. Except, he's shit at martial arts. Like, fucking Daredevil can beat him in a fight, which probably shouldn't be able to happen. And everybody's throwing all these glowing fists around. And remember that weird fight he had with the drunk dude? That was a pretty weird fight. Okay, that's not actually true. Iron Fist has not been brought back, and it definitely wasn't the weirdest show on TV. I just miss it, okay?
Rest in peace, Iron Fist.
No, the actual weirdest show is Doom Patrol, and the first 3 episodes of Season 2 have officially dropped on HBO Max and DC Universe. I've never talked about this on the channel before since the channel didn't exist when I first saw the show, but Doom Patrol is one of my favorite shows ever. Maybe even my actual favorite show ever, and I think it's one of the best pieces of superhero media to ever exist. In fact, out of all the other superhero TV shows, the only ones that I think come anywhere close to the quality of Doom Patrol are Daredevil, Season 1 of Jessica Jones, and of course, Iron Fist. Because you've got to admit, Iron Fist as a show had some balls. It was a really interesting decision to make, where in a show about someone who's supposedly the best martial artist in the world, to have most of the show be about boardroom meetings. And I think it really paid off, personally. I mean, who wants to see cool action when you could have long, meandering business scenes in boardrooms? And I also really like how he always says, "I'm Danny Rand" to everybody, everywhere, unprompted.
I'm Danny Rand. I'm Danny Rand.
But I'm Danny Rand, and I'm the Iron Fist.
I am the Iron Fist. I am the Iron Fist. I'm the Iron Fist. I'm the Iron Fist.
I'm the immortal Iron Fist.
You what?
Okay, yeah, that last one is a joke. Iron Fist kind of sucks, though I genuinely do like the drunk guy fight mentioned above, and I actually think Season 2 is pretty solid and worth watching. I'd give it 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. Look, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's my review of Iron Fist. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hitting the bell notification if you want to hear me talk more about Iron Fist, as I will gladly do it. I could do it all day. See you next time! Okay, just kidding. We're here for a Doom Patrol review. I've wasted enough time with that dumb Iron Fist bit, so let's get into the actual review. As I said before, Doom Patrol is among my favorite shows of all time. If you're not familiar with it, it's a superhero show that focuses on a group of misfits who live in a mansion and get up to hijinks. Except it's more complicated than that. If that kind of sounds like X-Men, you'd be correct, because there are a lot of similarities in the basic premise. But Doom Patrol, though similar in the basic premise, is very different and unique in its execution and presentation. Because this show is fucking weird. It's really dark and angsty at times with some really heavy emotional weight, but it manages to keep this great balance of like really absurdist humor, which makes the show a treat to watch. Unlike Titans, which is one of DC Universe's other original shows, I'm sure you would know it by the "fuck Batman" line. I'll just put a clip in of that really quickly.
Where's Batman? Fuck Batman.
Doom Patrol allows for moments of levity, which is something that Titans didn't really do as much, taking a more strictly dark and gritty approach. This absurdist humor is what makes this show such a breath of fresh air, and when I first saw it, there were so many moments that just made me laugh my ass off. The show follows a whole variety of characters. We got Cliff Steele, aka Robot Man, played by Brendan Fraser from the Mummy trilogy, who is a former race car driver who, when he gets involved in a horrific crash, has his brain placed in a robotic body. We also got Larry Traynor, aka Negative Man, played by Matt Bomer, a former test pilot whose body becomes inhabited by this kind of radioactive spirit that's kind of made of energy after he gets in a plane crash. We have Rita Farr, who is played by April Balby, I hope that's how you pronounce her last name, was an A-list actor who had a tragic accident on set one day, transforming her into kind of a blob type thing. Then we have Jane, sometimes known as Crazy Jane, and she's also played by Diane Guerrero from Orange is the New Black. And she's a woman who has 64 personalities inside of her, each personality having a different superpower. And then we have Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, played by Jovian Wade, and yeah, he's the dude from the Justice League.
You should probably move.
And we also have Dr. Niles Calder, aka the Chief, played by the incredible Timothy Dalton, and it kind of follows them as they all go about their lives having to encounter a ton of weird shit. And when I say weird, I mean really weird. Before we really get into the review proper, I'm going to go over how I'll be doing this really quick. This is a mostly spoiler-free review of the first 3 episodes of the new season. I'm mostly only going to be discussing things shown in the trailer, but there are some things in here that some people may consider kind of spoilery, so if you are very sensitive to spoilers, maybe just sit this review out until you've seen the show, because, trust me, it's definitely worth watching. The other thing is, I won't be doing a week-by-week review series of the show as it comes out. And I'm planning on doing 2 other Doom Patrol videos over the course of the next few weeks. One on my favorite scene from Season 1, and why it embodies everything I really love about the show, and then a full season review once Season 2 is completely out. But I won't be reviewing every episode individually, as I think that's kind of tedious to do, and I don't think I'd be, really putting my best work in if I were to do it that way. So without further ado, let's start the review. I was curious as to whether or not Doom Patrol would be much different coming into Season 2. It was a smash hit when it first debuted on DC Universe, with most everyone who watched it absolutely loving it, including myself. But since then it's been picked up by HBO Max, and it is even now branded as a Max original. I don't really know the full logistics behind the sharing of the show between those 2 services. I know it's currently being distributed by both DC Universe and HBO Max, but what that means in terms of the creative team details is a little less clear to me. I don't really have time to get into my thoughts on the matter, and how I think that DC Universe will not exist in its current form by the end of 2021. That's a discussion I'll save for the full season review, but regardless, I was interested and a little bit nervous to see if there were any major changes caused by HBO Max getting involved. And to be fair, there are notable changes, but the good news is that the core show that I really love is still absolutely there, and Doom Patrol is as good as ever. The first episode picks up a few weeks after the end of Season 1. By the way, full spoilers for Season 1, so if you haven't seen it, go do that. With the team still being tiny after escaping with Danny the Street from the painting that Mr. Nobody, who's played by Alan Tudyk, had trapped them in. Larry and the Chief have been working to find a way to enlarge themselves. Larry's already big, but enlarge everybody else. But when science fails, Niles turns to a different means, which comes at a pretty major cost. And then meanwhile, something is going on in the underground, which makes things difficult for Jane. And that's really all I can go into in terms of the main plot without spoiling too much. So, how is it? Well, I'm happy to report I really enjoyed it personally. These 3 episodes were a blast to watch, and in a world where there's not much new superhero content coming out, it's great to watch a superhero show that's so just amazing. The season has clearly gotten a budget upgrade, which I think is probably to do with HBO Max being involved, and the effects look pretty incredible. That's one facet of the show that I thought was pretty weak in the first season. The CG was pretty bad. But here I was really impressed with the effects. Not only that, but they seem to have gotten better at hiding some of the less than stellar effects. Hiding some of it in darkness, which makes it less noticeable. And all of that led to me being more fully immersed, with kind of less distractingly bad graphics to pull me out of the episode. The characters are all at their absolute best here, which is good, because at its core, Doom Patrol is a character drama, so if the characters were bad, it really wouldn't work, but they're firing on all cylinders. The performances all around are amazing, and I think every single actor here is putting in a better performance than they did in Season 1. The major standout for me in these first few episodes was Jane. She didn't really connect with me as much last season, but I think she's really amazing here. She's clearly softened towards the rest of the Doom Patrol, and as a result, she comes across as a much more likable character. I particularly love her dynamic with Cliff. There was a lot of tension between them last season, but they seem to have really formed a connection since then, and they seem to be really good friends now. I also really love the dynamic between Rita and Larry, which has only gotten better since the first season. We get a bit more background on their friendship in these first few episodes, including how they met, and it's such a sweet, wholesome duo in a show that very often gets very dark and depressing. I also want to talk about how amazing Timothy Dalton is here as the Chief. There's a lot of tension between him and the team as a result of the last season's finale, which all that's really well done, and Dalton plays it really well, but my favorite part of his character is how the writers have been giving him some really ridiculous and strange dialogue, which, I know that's par for the course for Doom Patrol, but Dalton has always struck me as this big, professional, dramatic actor, so to see the writers get him to say ridiculous stuff such as continuinium, or my personal favorite,
Follow the butterflies.
is just really fun to see. These episodes also add the new character of the Chief's daughter, Dorothy, and this is one of the only parts where I'm a little skeptical of where it's going. The character of Dorothy brings a lot of interesting additions to the table on the whole, which I won't spoil here, but her character as a whole just isn't clicking with me yet. It's not enough to drag the show down in any major way at all, but I'm hoping they do more to get me invested in this character, because right now I don't feel much of a connection at all. One thing that took me off guard, though not in a bad way, was the structure of the season so far. It's much more quick-paced and is seeming to do a kind of monster of the episode kind of format and formula. This is a structure that a lot of superhero shows have been doing, particularly the CW Arrowverse shows. I don't think it's a bad format by any stretch, but I think it can lead to a lot of filler if it's done incorrectly. Fortunately, I think the show is doing it really well. 2 out of the 3 episodes that have been released so far have seen the Doom Patrol go up against an antagonist that is really only around for 1 episode. At least so far. I don't know how it's going to go in the future episodes. But where some other shows use this as kind of padding to add more episodes to the season count, Doom Patrol does it in a way that still manages to advance the plot in interesting ways and to work towards a specific thing. The Arrowverse, contrarily, usually uses these episodes to distract from the main plot. And it's usually just something like, a villain shows up in the Flash, they fight the villain, they lose, they regroup and have an inspirational talk, they fight the villain again, they win, they celebrate, and then they talk about like the overarching season plot for like 2 minutes and then the episode's over. But the Doom Patrol ones feel much more purposeful. Not to mention, the villains they chose to use are just a lot of fun. Although they were maybe a little bit underdeveloped, but I think they're really cool concepts, and I think it's really fun to watch. But where the last season was a very slow-paced, kind of almost plodding piece of emotional and character drama, with these moments of absurd humor mixed into a fairly bare-bones plot, this season feels like it's moving a lot faster. I think this might partially be because there are only 9 episodes this season. I don't know why that is. Maybe it didn't switch to Max when there were 15 episodes last season, so they don't have to stretch out the plot as much. However, it never loses sight of its characters, which in my eyes is the most important facet of the show, and without that, I think it loses a lot of its charm. I'm also super happy to see that the ridiculousness of the show has stayed. I don't want to spoil some of the weirder moments, but episode 1 starts with a miniaturized robot man hunting rats to vent his anger, and upon punching one in the face, he shouts out, "Squeak, squeak, motherfucker!" It's hilarious, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Episode 2 is by far the weirdest of the 3, I think, and non-coincidentally, it's also my favorite of season 2 so far. So, yeah, Doom Patrol is back, and it's still great. If you haven't watched any of it, I'd highly recommend it if you have HBO Max. In my eyes, it's worth a Max subscription all on its own. I'm not going to give it a numerical score, because I really don't know how I'd go about that with a show like Doom Patrol, but it's amazing. I can't recommend it enough. So, what did you think of these Doom Patrol episodes and Season 2 so far? Have you watched it? Did you like it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. As I said earlier, I'll be doing a few more Doom Patrol videos over the next few weeks, so like and subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified when those come out. I also have a show with my friend Sebastian called Earth's Mightiest Comics, which is what the channel is named after. We basically talk about a lot of old Marvel comics, and I think it's a lot of fun. I'm working on uploading our backlog of those recordings to the YouTube channel right now, and I think once it hits episode 15, that's kind of really when we hit our stride, we kind of change up how we do it. And I think it gets much better to listen to at that point. I'm also starting a massive Doctor Who retrospective video series with my friend Jason, who has actually appeared on Earth's Mightiest Comics. He's in episode 11, which is not on the YouTube channel yet, but it will be at some point, so keep looking out for that. Basically, it's called TARDIS Talk Show, and we're basically reviewing every season of Doctor Who, covering 1 season per video, and we're kind of, in each season video, we're talking about each episode in like 5 to 10 minute kind of review mini segments. And by the time this goes up, we'll likely have recorded 2 videos of that, but they're super long, so it might take me a while to edit and upload them. But I think they're also a lot of fun, so if you want to check those out, that'd be awesome. Okay, I think that's all the plugs I have. Thank you everybody for watching very much. Appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next video.